Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles. All right. Hi, healers. So today I'm talking about what to do when your content feels, boring. And it's something that I hear quite a bit from people. They've maybe tried to write their website, maybe they've been writing their Instagram captions, but it just feels a bit so-so or same. And it happens to everyone. It's like super common. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're boring or you can't write or anything like that. Usually it's just about the editing, because often good content or fun content or insert chosen adjective content is that way because of how it's been edited. But other reasons why maybe the first draft or the second draft might feel a bit boring is when you're writing what you think you should be writing, particularly as a healthcare professional, right? Or having a healthcare professional background, you might be thinking, oh, what should I be writing? And thinking about your colleagues or your supervisor, or I don't know, that one lecturer you had many years ago who used to critique what you wrote, writing for them instead of writing for the people you actually want to attract, right? And it might feel boring when your content is just talking about facts and teaching, but there's no real connection or story. And really it comes down to this, it'll feel boring when there's real personality in the content. There's no sense of you between the line. And if you have that feeling like, oh, this could be written a different way, or maybe you are finding your attention waning when you're reading something, you might be onto something, because people really connect with content that feels like it came from a human, particularly now thinking about AI, where the robots have got their little paws on everything. Because truly, if your copy could belong to anyone, it belongs to no one. That's a little bit deep. But interestingly enough, when I was thinking about this episode topic, I'm in the market for a new phone, and I use the iPhone. So naturally, I knew about the new iPhone release. So I went on their website and looked at the Air, because I thought it was quite curious that there's an iPhone Air. Personally, I don't think I would get it because I sit on my phone quite often and I would be scared of snapping it. But alas, I looked at the copy, and the copy is really, really good. And I thought it was really interesting how they've edited it, or the headlines in particular, because the headlines on their first draft, I should imagine the writers or the creatives who did it probably wrote things that were pretty, standard, maybe a little bit boring, but they've done really clever creative tricks to make it quite interesting. So some headlines that jumped out to me was, so this is what the future feels like. There's another headline, new font, new back, new cam dash error, which is very clever, right? It's a play on words, but it also taps into the zeitgeist at the moment with errors everywhere, right? I think that's probably Taylor Swift's influence there. And then there's another headline that's 18 megapixels center stage front camera. It's a total frame changer. So game changer is a boring, I'm going to be put to sleep word, but frame changer is super, super clever, because you're talking about the camera and it's a play on words, and it zaps you awake because you're thinking it should be one thing, but it's something else. And that's really good, fun writing. And Apple also knows their audience. So it's generally, I think a lot of this copy, it could really speak to a lot of people, but I really thought about the younger people, young generation, who really cares about how maybe a product feels and what it says about them. So they've done some really clever editing and used a few puns and play on words, and it's super clever. So really, I thought it's a bit of a permission slip, right? To stop writing for approval and start writing for impact, or the impact that you want to have when your audience reads your content. So here are a few really simple ways to add a little bit of life to your content if you're finding it feels a little bit boring. And I've already touched on this before, but play on words is one of my favorite forms of editing or writing. So you can write plain, English first, and then edit the fun in, or the playful in. So you can look for words with a twist, like Apple did with, frame changer. And you can do it as well. So maybe a psychologist might say, I have 15 years of experience. And then maybe you could add in, which basically equates to I've sat through, 12,000 cups of lukewarm tea with clients. And that's a little bit relatable. It depends on your brand voice, of course, which is a totally different episode. But there are different ways that you can, play with words. One of my favorite things to do in copy is adding asides. So asides are little comments and parentheses that add personality. Kind of think of, say The Office or those style TV shows where characters glance at the camera with their side thoughts. And so you can do this too. ChatGPT or AI has unfortunately tarred the EM Dash's reputation, which is quite, well, personally, I think there should be justice for the EM Dash because I love an EM Dash. And I have the receipts to prove it from years and years ago of writing, so many assignments or my thesis with so many EM Dashes in it, I should say. So instead of an EM dash, you could do a parentheses, which I touched on before. Another simple way is to shake up your words or use different words or use words that you actually say in real life. And a really easy way to do that is to write how you speak. So what you can do is grab your phone, record yourself explaining an idea as if you were explaining it to a patient or even a colleague, depending on who your audience is, and then transcribe it and you'll get the words that you actually use, right? And then you can do a light edit. So you don't need to have all the ums and the ahs and the pauses and the erms and all of that in there because that will take away from your message. But I do promise that it'll sound more engaging than typing it, stiffly from scratch. Another way is to use rhythm and variety. So oftentimes, which you probably even noticed with AI or ChatGPT, how they often use the same rhythm and the same sentence structures and even like the same blocky text. And it just looks boring as well, rather than even sounding boring. Just the visually it looks boring. So mix it up. We might write a long line, you might write a short line, you might write a few really flowing sentences and then end with a one-word sentence or fragment. Or dare I say fragment. I used to get in trouble all the time at uni writing sentence fragments, but now, I can do it. But really those fragments, they mirror natural conversation, which can keep readers engaged. Another way is to bring in sensory details and painting a picture with your words. So you're using sensory words, so like sight, hearing, taste, smell, all of those things, and seeing if you can use verbs or adjectives that really evoke a sense of what you're trying to describe with your words, rather than, saying, I help people reduce their stress. You could say, I help people go from lying awake at 3 a.m. with their chest tight to finally exhaling and sleeping through the night. Oh, it sounds quite poetic as well, doesn't it? And that paints a really good picture. And of course, yes. Caveat, you've got to be really careful about what you can promise, particularly as a healthcare professional. But if you're writing for your business, your side non-clinical business, that's totally different in creativity. You can be a bit more looser with how you write, right? And one of my favorite ways for last is steal words from your audience. So listen to how your clients describe their struggles or what they want, their dreams, their fantasies, and use exactly that language. It's a little bit like you would when you are with a patient. If they describe their anxiety as actually nerves rather than anxiety, then you would probably use the word nerves when you're talking about anxiety because it's their world, their language. And you can do that in your copy as well because it shows you that you really understand them. Yeah, so here's your permission slip to have fun and shake things up and be a bit more playful with what you write, because really safe copy is forgettable copy. And your content doesn't have to be perfect. It's more important, I think, in today's world that it sounds like a human wrote it. And if that means that there is not super polished sentence structures or even the odd typo, honestly, I feel like maybe typos are going to make a comeback because it'll show that a human wrote it. But I don't know, that's maybe just me. Or maybe just me hoping, wishful thinking, right? And if you want a little bit of help with this, I have put together a guide called Ditch the Academic Speak and Write Like a Human. And it's really my antidote to boring content, where I walk you through in a PDF really simple, practical ways to add a bit of oomph or zing to your writing, and including how to swap out those really stiff, overused AI-isms for words that feel and sound like you. Really, it's like a toolkit to make your copy play again. And P.S., that's in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening. And if this episode gave you some ideas or you enjoyed listening to it, share it with another healer with a hustle who might need a gentle reminder that their words don't have to be boring. And once again, yes, if you want that freebie, the link's waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time. All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.